Hey guys, this is Adam from Dodjit.com and this is your video briefing for Monday the 12th of October 2009. Basically, major indices came down, or the S&P 500 came down to its 50-day moving average. Now, we showed you in our last video this major trend line, and basically what happened was it was stuck a little bit between the 50-day moving average and its trend line, and this basically turned out to be a false break roughly around here, and we climbed higher. Now, I wouldn't really read much into this rally, and the reason for that is due to the following. Number one, volume wasn't as well as I would have hoped it to be. Look at the volume around this area when we had this nice rally going higher, and now look at the volume going high. If you take a closer look at volume, you can see that our volume now is declining while the trend is going higher, which makes me think that we could get stuck a little bit around this area. Now, another thing I just want to bring your attention to is this. Last week we had a lot of data. 3 central banks, they came out with their rate decisions, and the markets, yeah, they did climb higher. We received a bounce. Gold and silver are also really climbing higher, so they're pulling this market higher. Now, this week there isn't that much fundamental data coming out, but there are a lot of names giving their reports, their earnings. So we've got, just for example, we've got Google, we've got Goldman Sachs on Thursday. That's going to be a really major day. We've got MRK coming out, Nokia. We've got a lot of companies that are coming out this week, and I think those companies are going to set the tone. We already had Alcoa come out, and the reports, their earnings were better than expected, so it did drive the markets higher. I think this week is going to be another week of earnings. So we're going to have to play according to the reports that are coming out. I think we're going to be stuck a little bit. Unless we receive a break on Monday, I think we're going to get stuck a little bit around this area. If we do break higher, then it's going to be full steam ahead. Now, let me just flip over to a weekly chart. And the reason for that is like this. We stated on the weekly report, this weekly report, that 1,200 for the S&P 500 might be a nice target. And the reason for that is, number one, like this. We've had this massive rally, we had a correction around here, another massive rally. We could correct slightly or start to consolidate around this area a little bit. But what I'm looking at is, I'm looking at the moment the weekly chart, and I'm thinking to myself, we've climbed so high at the moment over the last, I don't know, since March. We can see we've climbed so high. We're not going to come down to touch this level roughly around here, this trend line. If you look carefully, what I'm doing is that now I'm just closing this pattern off, the whole of this recession. I'm setting an upper trend line and a lower trend line. And look, we've climbed so high, so we're not going to come up to this level, to the 1150 level, 1,200 level. I think there's a fair chance that we are going to climb higher, and we're going to come up to touch that upper trend line. Obviously, this is really going to depend on the results that are coming out and the fundamental data that's coming out, but from a technical point of view, it does look like it's got some further room to climb higher. Also, if you take a look at the RSI, still got plenty of room until it becomes overbought. So keep that longer term perspective in mind. The next chart is the euro against the US dollar. We flipped over, like always, to a few Forex charts. Same type of pattern. We stated in our last video that we're probably going to get stuck in roughly around a 400 pip range. That's basically what's been happening. We climbed higher, we're now going slightly lower. I still see this range, for those of you that are range traders or like to trade on the range, so then you've got the upper level and the lower level. We're talking about roughly 400 pips. We are still trading above this major trend line, so take that into consideration. If it does retrace to roughly around 1.46, we could receive a little bit of support around this area. It might not touch 1.4480. Obviously, if stocks climb higher, this is also going to climb higher. The next chart is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, we received a massive bounce on Friday, and we stated this also on the report. The bounce in the dollar was mainly only on the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So even though it does look like this might be starting a new trend, be careful. That's all I'm saying. Be careful. We've got this trend line coming down like this. We have now broken it, so it does look like it's going higher, but we've got a lot of resistance around this area, 91 level. We've got support around this area, around here. So even though it does look like it's breaking, it's starting a new trend. Be careful of the 91 resistance level, and also take into consideration the dollar strength at the moment is only mainly on this pair, so it could be limited. The next chart is the pound against the US dollar. It's a daily chart. Now this looks like it's starting to set up. Look at this. We haven't managed to sustain any rally. We came up to touch this trend line. We stated this also. We dropped lower. We're now on major support. Obviously, if this breaks lower, so then we've got a long fall till roughly 1.5352. Again, this could be a nice play. Let's see how it plays out. Obviously, we're going to want to receive a nice break to the downside. We're basically just flipping through a few different charts here. I want to get in as many as I can. The US dollar against the Canadian dollar, this is a larger perspective, and we stated that we had this massive bearish triangle. We were stating that for a long time. We broke it to the downside. This trade is going quite well. We've got support roughly around this area. Let's see, let's just move over a little bit, and we can see we've got support roughly around here. So basically, if you are in this trade, make sure you're moving your stops, because if we do touch support, we're going to probably receive a bounce, and you don't want to get caught out. You don't want to lose some of those profits. The Australian dollar against the US dollar, let's see what's happening here. Basically, we've got these two trend lines. We mentioned them in our previous video. Let's just take that like that. Let's just zoom out a little bit. We can see, let's just sort that out for a second. You can see roughly around here. So we are now at the top of our trend line. We're going to probably receive a little bit of a retracement. Again, this all really depends on what's going to happen with stocks. Again, we've gone through quite a lot of charts. You've got the trend lines, you've got the support and resistance level. There's a few names coming out this week, a few major names that are going to really rock the market. Again, if earnings come out good in the US, it's probably going to have an effect on all the major indices and also on all the various currency pairs. Take the lines into consideration. My name is Adam from Dodjit.com.